Hello, hello. Welcome to the stream, everyone. Let's see. I am Valgan. I do this intro every time, but I do largely Unity programming in C#. I do stuff for VR chat, for other platforms and stuff, some standalone things. But today, hello, Lumila. Today we're going to be doing more NPCs. So not yesterday, it was Tuesday. We got the initial stuff set up. We got the locomotion set up so that they can be moved around, and then we have the controller set up so that we can tell it where to move around to. Okay, finally get to see one of the streams live. I'm trying to make posable figures from VRC comic shop. Oh yeah, I saw your post. It's the implementations that I've seen in the past have involved using an asset called Final IK. VRChat uses that for its IK solution for VRChat avatars. The only issue is that they've kind of adjusted some of the code, so what you see in the editor might not be 100% what you'll see in client if you use it. So there might be like 1% difference that you'll run into. The other problem is it's bloody expensive. Don't buy it full price. Get it either on sale or in a humble bundle or something like that. It is not cheap, and nor is it easy to use. Otherwise, making a IK solution in Unity, in Udon for posable figures in the world is possible. It is certainly not something I've poked around at before, and maybe eventually, TM. I know Lumilight has poked around at it a bit, but I found Final IK for a dive figure discount. I don't know what that means, but I'll take the winky face as you have it very legally. Let's see here. All right, so one of the things that I was trying to figure out is what character model to... Oh, a 5... Okay. I wanted to figure out what character models to include in this project, since people should be able to just drag and drop one into your scene and see how it works. And the Xbot isn't quite doing it because you don't really have eyes, you don't have mouth movement. There's things that we're going to have to like try to implement if this is going on an actual humanoid NPC. And my god, was it hard to find a like fully like CC0 or MIT like character model that looked good and I felt was appropriate for this kind of thing. What I ended up picking out actually were these these three essentially. This is just a block out version of the Unity-chan, but there's Unity-chan, there's VCat-chan 2, and Game VCat-chan. These are the kind of three that I was poking around at as just like, hey, these are ones that you can just put in your scene and they should work. I'll probably have a non-humanoid version as well, but that is definitely going to be a like an eventually thing. We might not get that implemented in the first couple weeks, but I do want to have that in eventually. Because you'll want, there's things like the Roomba. That's something you can pick up and toss around, so it can't quite be like a nav mesh agent, but you might want some like little object that's an NPC that moves around, or something that's not humanoid, like, I don't know, a dog, like that can run around and do stuff. But for now, I have these three-ish models that I've kind of picked out as these are ones that we can kind of toss together and use for the demo here. I was looking through VR chat avatars, kind of specifically, like on Booth or likes, trying to find ones that are both high quality, free, and free to redistribute unchanged. And unsurprisingly, that's a very small amount of avatars that exist on there. Technically, the Quest version of the Runa falls under all those categories, but I'm not quite sure if that's the kind of vibe I'm after. And I know I'm looking for something very specific and being picky, so yeah, I don't know. But these will probably work fine for now. Now, if we look over here, our Xbot has a few things. It has an LOD group, but that's not really necessary. It has the locomotion component here, and it has the agent controller here, the agent controller. I made a script that takes voice clips and runs the blend shapes and triggered. I have it in on my NPCs. Nice, yeah. I think you had posted that as well. That's probably something that I'll want to implement here with this as well. I think the what is it called? The like Oculus voice sync thing is exposed for uploading in VR chat worlds. So that might be a good solution for me to look into. I've tried implementing it on a few things, and I've kind of gotten confused by their example scenes and stuff. But it seems doable. I don't know if you did a very similar thing, or if you went with a completely in-house solution that you did through Udon, or what you ended up doing for that. Now, if I want to get all of these models set up to actually work like this, I could manually set up all the components. But today, we're going to not do that manually. We're going to do automation through editor scripts because frankly, I'm addicted. It's very nice. So let's go into our scripts folder and have a editor folder. And let's make a new window, C# NPC creation window. Now I'll just drag this over here. And grab the namespace, bonk, bonk. And instead of mono behavior, we're gonna have this be editor window. Now, if you actually want to make an editor window and have it like up here in Unity, you're going to have to use an attribute on a function. So we'll do public static void show window, just any function with any name. Do menu item. Yeah, menu item. We'll just put this under tools, NPCs. NPC, I think, is good. And then creation window. So if I use this attribute, menu item should just give us a menu option at the top, like file editor likes, but under tools, NPC, and creation window. So head back over to Unity. We have our, I'm not sure. Yeah, it's not visible on, it's not going to be visible on stream, unfortunately. But if I do, oh, let me swap this up. I'll disable the auto switcher and do capture there. So if I do tools, you'll see we have NPC here and then creation window. That did nothing because I haven't set it up to, but let's see. We can go ahead and actually have it create an instance of our editor window. My script is standalone. I did try to use the Oculus thing, but I just made one script and voila, works like a dream. Charm. I even throw in blinking. Nice, nice. Yeah, so there's going to be a lot of little character things that I want to set up. I want to set up auto blinking. I want to set up mouth movements, and I want to set up vision interests where like the NPC will look towards a thing. That will probably require some kind of IK implementation, just so it can rotate the head and the neck and the chest. But that will be not today. Something will be. So let's go ahead and actually make this window. So do NPC creation window. Window equals. Let's do get window. There's a couple things we could do. We could do create window, which will instantiate a new window if we want to have multiple ones. Like you can have multiple inspectors. But we don't really have a need for more than one of these. So we'll just do get window, NPC creation window, and then window.show. Now there's going to be nothing in this window, but this will pop up as an actual pop-up. And it will let us actually create a little window here. So I do this. It's not actually going to show up on stream until I dock it here. There we go. So we just have a little empty NPC creation window here. And we need to actually put some things into it. And I need to put some water into my mouth. 1 second. Good stuff. All right. I think I'll actually dock this over here by the inspector. Now, there's a couple things we can do right away with this. We can put in a few values in here if we want, or is it in here? Utility title. Yeah, so we can put in a string for the title, and if I want to, I can just do NPC creation window. And the only reason I'm typing that there is because by default, NPC creation window, that's the title of it, just has one word and no spaces. So this will let us actually break it out into proper spaced naming schemes. Just move some stuff around here. All right. And if we go back into Unity, do close, then make a new one, dock it again. Yep, it says NPC space creation space window. All right, so we're going to not take any parameters to start, but we're going to have two things happen. One, we need a reference to an animator. That's just like our prefab for creating this NPC. And two, we need to stick a bunch of scripts on it after we instantiate it. And that will be pretty simple to set up, actually. We're going to be using UI elements for this. So we'll do create GUI. Now, create GUI doesn't return a visual element because the actual, how do you say it? The actual window itself already has a root visual element, just called root visual element. Now, let's toss two things into that. We're going to have a object field and a button. The button being for spawning and the object field for referencing our thing. So just have a private object field from UI elements, NPC reference field, and a private button create NPC button. So here we'll just do NPC reference field equals new object field, and create NPC button equals new button, and we'll just add both of these to the visual element. So visual elements dot add NPC reference field and create NPC button. This will not do anything yet, but it'll let us see what's happening. Alright, so we have an object field now. It's pretty tiny. Let me actually see if I can improve the UI scaling of Unity for this. Would that be under... what would that be? Not external tools, not general. UI scaling. Let's put this up to... changing the setting requires a restart to take effect. Okay, so I'm going to let Unity restart here. And I can poke at a few more things while we're waiting on that. So one of the things you may have noticed is that our button was very, very thin. And that's because it didn't actually have any text. So buttons normally expand to the size of the text that's in them, and this one didn't. So we'll do create NPC button dot text equals create NPC. All right, swap back over into Unity. Now let's open. There we go. All right, so the UI is a bit bigger now and should be a bit more visible on stream. You see, we got a big old button up here that just says create NPC, and an object field right here that says none object. Now, we're going to have to make this a animator, and we're going to have to make it not allow scene objects. So we'll do NPC reference type dot object type equals type of animator. There we go. And NPC reference field dot allow scene objects equals false. Maybe we should allow scene objects. I think for now we'll just work off of prefabs. We can add it in the future to just write it on top of an object that exists in the scene, but I feel like we can pretty easily mess that up a bit. So now we actually have it says none animator, and if I try to drag in any of the NPCs here, see, it won't let us drag it in. But if I go into the models here and drag in game vcat, the reference works there. I think it might be best actually right now to, instead of setting it up with the prefab, set it up to work with the one that we're referencing in the scene. Since I already have these four, I think I'll flip that around, yeah. All right, so we'll have this be true. And let's go ahead and have this button actually do something. So we're going to have another function here, so private void create NPC. And we're just going to have this called when this button is clicked. So there's a few things we could do. We could do create NPC button dot clicked and have this subscribe into the method of create NPC. Like, we could do that. We can in fact just lower that down here so it's just the plus equals. Or we can just put it into here. So if I have this referenced here, then that's just automatically going to be the callback function that's used when it's creating, well, when this button is actually pressed. I'm personally going to leave it down here because I think it being expanded out like this makes it a bit more obvious what's happening. Because this behavior is identical to putting it in here. And showing it here that's being subscribed into the clicked event is just my personal preference on how that works. So we are going to have to take the object in the scene that has that is the animator that we're doing here and stick a bunch of components onto it. So we're going to first do animator nm equals, and we're going to do npc reference field dot target value. That's it. And then we're going to cast that as an animator because we know the only thing that can go in that field is an animator. Now, if there's not anything in that field, like if you haven't dragged anything in, we just want to quit out. So we'll do if exclamation point anim return. And otherwise, for now, we'll just debug log. Whoops, not logger. We want to log anim. Yeah, we'll just log the reference there. What is it complaining about for this name? Oh, it wants me to not. Okay. Yeah, so I use full caps NPC for any of the like descriptive thing and like the naming of stuff. But it really, Ryder and other things really like to not have acronyms be full caps all the way through. That's my NPC scripts if anyone wants them. We all need more NPCs in VRC. This is very true. Alright, so this log should work fine. Let's head back over into Unity. If we click it right now, nothing happens. And if we drag in box UnityChan, we get a log here of box UnityChan. Ignore all these other logs. Recent updates to the SDK for VRChat has made the VRChat SDK window do a bit more log spamming than usual. So now it constantly tells us it's force enabling fog and stuff like that. Since I don't really need this for now, I actually close that window. We won't be testing stuff in-game for a while because a lot of our work is going to be in Unity. But again, as you see, I can just hit this button and we just get a bunch of logs whenever I press it. So let's go ahead and set this up. The first thing that we want to do is we want to add the agent locomotion component. And then after that, we'll add the agent controller. Now, we don't want to add them if there already is one. So we'll do anim.getComponent. Agent locomotion. And we'll just set that to be agent locomotion. Actually, yeah, we don't need it right now, but we'll save this as a reference here for when we come back in the future, and we're doing this as an applying new settings onto it. We don't have any settings to set at the moment, but for now, we'll just store it anyway. Locomotion, so have that equal that. And if locomotion is false, we will do anim.add component. I think that needs to be, is it game object? Yeah, it can only do .add component to a game object. So I think it actually will make most sense to put it here. Agent object equals anim.gameObject. We'll just use that for now. So we'll do dot. Is there an add or get? Get or add component. Oh, this is part of the VR chat SDK. Okay, so this isn't like a Unity thing. So I'll just do agent object dot add component agent locomotion. And since that returns, we'll do locomotion equals that. And we're going to do the exact same thing for the agent controller. So if we just go over here, copy paste this, we'll call this controller. So now, if we come back into Unity, we should be able to just drag our box John into here. Hit create. We go back to our inspector. Let's see, we have the agent locomotion, we have the agent controller, and we also have the nav mesh agent here. And that's because the nav mesh agent is a required component of the agent locomotion. So this will always add this component when we add the locomotion component. It'll also add an animator, but chances are we already have an animator because it's the required field for this pop-out to actually work. But now, we're going to have to be setting a lot of these values because, well, frankly, these values kind of suck for what we're doing. Like, just look at this thing. It is very big. Let's drag this over here to get a reference of what we're going to be putting in. So we're going to be setting the speed, the angular speed, the acceleration and stuff on the nav mesh agent. We won't really be doing anything for the locomotion because a lot of this is just readout, but we will be setting some things on the controller as well, such as a reference to the locomotion. So this one needs to know about this. The only reason that it's decoupled and like doesn't automatically populate that reference is because I want to be able to have this as a different game object. So let's say agent controller. Agent controller doesn't actually declare anything specifically for the game object that it is. So this could be somewhere else completely. And that may make the most sense eventually to have a root object that is the NPC controller and a bunch of other settings, and the child object that's the actual NPC that's moving around and doing stuff. That might make more sense, especially in the future when we end up doing networking for this. But for right now, we can just keep it as one thing. Also, welcome, Steady Shadow. Yeah, we are doing some NPC stuff today. And by NPC stuff, I mean building out some automation for it. Right now, we have a reference to it and a button to create it. And this just pops on the settings. So I'm actually going to disable all the ones we aren't using for now, so that we can do all of these effects and stuff on this one here. Since we're doing this, I think it will make most sense to forcibly add a nav mesh agent first and do references onto that, since we're going to need some stuff for that. We'll just call that agent. And we need to import it. There we go. So for right now, I'm going to hard code a bunch of numbers, but we're going to have these be stuff that's available in the inspector eventually, but we're just going to figure out what's good. So if we're looking at this demo one, I figured out that speed 2.5 is pretty good. That actually doesn't really do anything at the moment since we're using root animation, root motion for animations. I may end up moving away from doing that, primarily due to, frankly, just the lack of available animations that can support that. I do actually have a pretty alright library that I'm using right now for animations, and that's actually the the Unity-chan animations. So they have a few things in here like walking, running, jumping, hand up, and the likes. So if I just drag, let's do like the box-chan in here. You'll see that they have this animation of running with their hand up. We have an animation of them walking forward. And it all works quite well, but it doesn't have root motion, meaning the animation itself doesn't move the character forward. So it may make sense to just go in and move away from using root motion for walking forward and back. Or I may have to figure out how to add root motion into this animation. These are things that I'm very unfamiliar with. Modifying humanoid animations I find to be particularly difficult, primarily because VRChat isn't very good at it. Oh, right. Whoops. There we go. Let's pop it here for now. All right. So here's a little preview of the animation. But as you can see, it is staying completely still. It is not moving forward like the animation that I have for the Xbot walking around. So if I go over to where did I put it? It would be animations, Mixamo do not distribute. We have Mixamo walking. So if we zoom out on this, you'll see if I hit play, they actually walk forward and the grid moves with them. Well, the grid moves away from them because they're walking in 3D space. And that's the thing that the Unity-chan animations do not come with. And frankly, I've found most animation packs don't come with. The only real solution that I see right now for having root motion applied into these animations is just to go into VRChat, use one of the tools, and just record myself walking around and doing stuff. And that's going to be a lot of cleanup. It's going to be a lot of trial and error to get the ones that I want. And I am not an animator. I am not someone who can really jump in and just take on the task of animating humanoid characters. It is probably the thing I am single-handedly weakest at for any kind of game development. Fortunately, however, we have a lot of assets, and we will not be reliant on that. I am, however, going to swap to seated pose today. Doing a lot of getting up and moving around. Alright, so from here, let's take a look at the values that I set on this. Speed of 2.5, angular speed of 360, acceleration of 10, stopping distance of 0.25. Now, these are going to be the first ones that we need to write in. Going to be completely honest, I'm going to screenshot these values, move them to my other monitor, and just type them in. Alright. So now that we have a reference to our agent here, we'll just write all this stuff in. I'll actually comment here nav mesh agent settings. So these are a bit more visible. Locomotion settings and controller settings. So we'll do agent.speed equals, I'll just have this at 2.5 for now. We'll break these out into variables in a bit, and then we'll have them customizable in that editor window. But we're just going to build out a bunch of default values for now. Agent.angular speed equals 60. Agent.acceleration equals 10. Agent.stopping distance equals 0.25 meters. And this should be on by default, but agent.auto braking equals true. Now, I'm going to show you something here, and if it works how I think it's going to work, we're going to have to make some adjustments. So if we click on here, we have all these values right above my head of 3.5 and 120. These are not the ones we want, so we drag them in here, click create NPC, and it updates these values accordingly. However, if I press undo, it's not part of the undo stack. It's not undoing that action. That was a destructive action for writing these values. So what we really need to do is just do undo.recordObject, and we'll actually do that under our reference for the game object here. And we will put in the agent object for the reference of what we are undoing, and put in a name of what this action is. Like applied NPC settings to object to target. So if I go back here into Unity and just go ahead and remove the added components, we'll remove NavMesh agent after locomotion, remove the controller and NavMesh agent. Now, if I drag this into the field again, hit create, all of the stuff is there. If I hit undo, I didn't quite undo it. Let's see. Component of type NavMesh agent was added to Unity Boxtron using GameObject to add component and had become dangling during an undo enemy operation. Ooh. Alright. Okay. So, add component is something that can just be an undo action. So, if instead of doing agent object.add component, we'll do undo.add component, and then we'll pass in the game object that's going to be put onto. So agent object. There we go. And we're going to do this for all the others. So agent object, bulk, and copy agent object and put it into all those fields. Head back into Unity here. And we can go ahead and get rid of the NavMesh agent. Drag our character in, create. It added all the things. I hit undo, and it removes all the things. Great. So now when you accidentally hit a button that totally dismantles your custom NPC and sets it to the resetted thing, you're like, oh no, crap, I didn't want to do that. You can actually press undo and it actually works. This is a very important setting. Very important thing to support. Alright, so one of the things that I've set up here is on our agent controller, the reference for the locomotion here isn't public. I just have it as private. So what I'm actually going to do is, instead of setting it to be public, I'm going to have a public setter function. So we'll just have a actually we'll have a public thing for it here. We'll do public agent locomotion, and we'll do get returns locomotion, but set will be locomotion equals value, because when we set something on this value, it'll actually let us write it into this base thing. This basically gives us a wrapper for this. So instead of completely exposing our base values and everything that's being worked on, we can control it in here if we wanted to do something. Say if we wanted to check, is like, oh, does locomotion already have a value? Then don't set it. But for right now, I won't have anything different in here. This is just going to be the wrapper that I use for this. And that can be shortened down like this. So we'll go to our controller down here. So we'll do controller.locomotion, set that equal locomotion. And that's the only setting we really need for now. So head back into Unity. We have our agent here. We have our controller down here. See that locomotion is empty. And if we run the create NPC function again, it actually populates it. Let's go ahead and here's some water. That's what I'm doing. All right. So let's see. That should be all the settings we need to write right away. If we're going to be transitioning away from using root motion animations, we should probably go ahead and start with that now, because that means that we can avoid having this object field require an animator, and we can just have it be a game object. So that will let us actually be able to make NPCs that aren't animated. Like if we want to just have like a rock really aggressively running at someone, we can do that. So just do that. So our agent locomotion shouldn't require an animator anymore. So let's see here. How do we want to do this? This is going to be a bit of just kind of ripping out some code. Yeah, we're gonna... Yeah, this will still write to an animator if we have one, but we won't rely on it for movement. Let's go into Unity here and just kind of show off what that means. So on our Xbot over here that's properly set up, we'll see that apply root motion on our animator isn't a toggle. It simply says handled by script. And that's because we have the function on animator move on a script that's on our game object. And this basically lets us know when something is moving in our animation, and we take control of it there. So that's why we can't toggle it in the inspector. So we'll actually go and set apply root motion to be false here. And let's see, what do we want to do here? In a root animation, in X position, transform position. We're not setting position anywhere. This is just getting values for our animation. Okay, so in that case, if we just disable our on animator move here, that should be safe enough. Agent update position will be true because we'll be relying on the nav mesh agent now for moving the character around. All right, and now even though our animator, our script is setting anim.apply root motion, the toggle is now here for us to set it simply because on animator move is not being used. So let's see what that actually looks like. Go ahead and uncheck that. And our NPC here is going to have very different behavior than what it did before. And by that I mean it's just kind of sliding. So we're going to have to go ahead and change some values here. All right. So the way that we're animating our character is by getting a world delta from agent.next position and transform current position. We're taking that, we're building a velocity out of it. Remaining distance should move. I'm writing this velocity here. So my guess is this value is probably 0. Yeah, none of these values are writable because they're constantly being rewritten. Smooth delta position. Alright, so if I set this to be a high value, you see that it's smoothing back to 0. But that's because it's being written into with a 0 value. So that means that this delta position between these dot products are 0. And it means that world delta is probably just 0. So agent.next position gets or sets the simulation position of a nav mesh agent. I'm going to check quick to see what the documentation says for that in terms of how it handles animators. So nav mesh agent next position. The position is coupled to transform position. In the default case, the nav mesh agent's transforming position will match the internal simulation position at the time the script update is called. This coupling can be turned on and off by setting update position. Okay, so since we have animator.update navmesh agent.update position set to true up here, that is why our next position is identical to transform position. So instead of calculating a velocity, it may in fact just make the most sense to get the current velocity that our navmesh agent actually is using. So let's temporarily comment this out, and we'll go ahead and just raw set underscore velocity to equal agent dot velocity. Now this will probably give us not perfect behavior, but it'll be a place to start. All right, so let's go ahead and let's see what this guy does. Well, they're doing a whole lot of nothing. So I'm not entirely sure why. This music is definitely how my brain feels right now. Why aren't they going anywhere? Let's just do tracking. Okay. So why wasn't it working in the pathing? What's my pathing code in the controller? Locomotion.has arrived, and has arrived is set. Oh well, okay. Let's move that here. I may have commented out a bit more than I meant to. Pop this there. Even when it was moving to the other thing, I'm curious. Oh, okay, so agent.velocity is a vector 3, and I'm treating velocity as a vector 2 right now. So we'll do new vector 2, agent velocity x, agent velocity z. So that will transform the planar vector 3 into just a normal vector 2. Alright, so if we go back to scene, they're very slowly moving backwards. Not entirely sure. why that's the case. All right, what was my calculation here? So velocity used to be smooth delta position divided by time. And delta position is just the direction we want to be moving in. Well, what did this value look like? So if I click on you here, oh, what's what? Oh, okay. So it walks forward incorrectly that way. What we're not doing, we're getting a world space velocity. We are not getting a local space velocity, which is what the animator cares about. That makes sense. All right, so we'll have to do vector 3 local velocity equals transform vector. Yeah. From local space to world space. No, we want the inverse of that. Inverse transform vector. And we'll toss agent velocity into that. And then we'll swap this out here. So this should make the Xbot actually walk forward correctly. Let's go ahead. I should really disable the autofocus for the game view. We can do that now. It's actually quite nice. Yeah, okay. This is animating perfectly well. It slows down a lot on corners for the animation, but what can we do about that? Let's change its acceleration back down to a value like 3. Angular speed, let's do 120. That's the default value. Man, I really don't want it to be able to... What code error is that? Oh, I use JetBrains Rider. It is very nice, and for non-commercial use is actually free. So you can get it for basically any project you're working on. I absolutely love it. And for a lot of my tutorial videos, I use Visual Studio Code simply because I know it is about as bare bones and most likely what people are actually using. But I personally use JetBrains Rider for all of my projects. I have a paid subscription for it since I, well, use it to a commercial manner. But you can get it for non-commercial, and it's nice. Yeah, VS Code is not bad. Rider just is so much better at inferring what kind of autofills for included namespaces you want that I've just gotten so used to it. Really is just coming to a stop here. Is that part of my blending? Okay, so maybe it's part of the blending in and out. So okay, let's change my movement tree here, because that seems to be what's happening. Let's add a value around the middle. So we'll do this here. And we'll put in Mixamo idle for now. But this is probably going to end up with a little bit of wackiness. So we'll have Mixamo walking start from 0.5 and Mixamo walking negative from 0.25. Oh, I should have changed it before I there we go. No, that didn't help. Well, I guess I didn't. Yeah, let's just adjust that. Temporarily disable that value. We'll go into our game view here. We will disable play focus. We want to play unfocused. Animator. We'll just check moving by default. In fact, I think we can just go in here and just check should move or not. Oh, is this because I have a controller connected to my PC? Is it doing that thing? Why is it doing that? Okay, well I can keyboard navigate over to it. I wonder if it's an issue with how I've scaled the editor for the stream. Huh. I don't know what's causing that. But yeah, basically I'm just clicking some buttons behind my head, and this button just like isn't clickable by my mouse. I don't know what would be causing that. Yeah, odd. Oh well. Let's go back into our play mode here. Well, it isn't my custom editor, that's for sure. Alright, well, it's definitely sliding along that nicely. Let's go ahead and try something where it actually needs to stop, because it doesn't actually stop any of these points. So let's swap it to pathing towards the tracking target. Alright, so it is just snapping to that state, which I definitely don't want. So if we look at the animator, moving is true. Why is that snapping? Because it should smooth in and out of this. Or maybe that's because I'm just raw setting these values. Yeah, let's smooth out the velocity again. So we'll do velocity equals vector2 dot lerp. We'll do velocity that And what smoothing were we doing earlier? Ah, we were doing time dot delta time. Oop, dot delta time multiplied by acceleration smoothing. All right, see if that resolves it. I'm definitely going to have to adjust my custom editor a bit. While we're waiting, today was actually supposed to be the first day of summer where we had a bunch of food trucks show up outside by the park near us. Unfortunately, it is very rainy, so likely not going to be the case. Oh well. I do not need more excuses to spend money. Alright, so there you go. So that. Alright, so that's over here. I could definitely do with some lower smoothing, some less smoothing. There we go. Lock that inspector, click on our target. All right, this number appears to be increased. There we go. No, that's not quite right. What's the transition length for this? It's probably quite short. 0.5. Let's drop that to 0.3 and blending into it 0.1. Let's get rid of the new idle one. Minus 0.5. That's probably what I had it at earlier, right? Yeah. Do 1 for walking. Yeah, because 2 is meant to be a wrapper for a running animation. Yeah. Not ideal for the rain, but oh well. We're certainly going to have it for another 3 months, so not exactly too massive of a loss, I guess. All right, let's see how that handles it. Okay. It certainly could be worse. I think this is workable for now. Yeah, okay, we can go with that for now. So with this implementation, we no longer need root motion animations, which while it's unfortunate we don't have like support for that anymore, it also means we can actually use animations that exist, because there's just so few of them. I would love to have included the Mixamo ones, but Mixamo has a non-redistribution clause in their terms of service, so you get what we got. Um, Otherwise, it's true. This looks good. This looks good. Let's go ahead and increase the default stopping distance on this. So stopping distance 0.25, too small. We do 0.5. Go ahead into our code. Stopping distance 0.5. Now is probably going to be a good time for us to go ahead and actually change these values into parameters that can be adjusted in the inspector. And with that, we're going to be adding a lot more of our fields here. So instead of manually creating them here, let's go and properly create one in the UI builder. So I'll just have a folder here called resources, because we'll be loading this from the resources folder. UI builder, changes to list view, change to editor, yep, true view, active editor theme. And first and foremost, we're going to save as, there we go. You won't see this pop up, but I'm putting this in NPCs resources and calling this creation window. So we're gonna need our let's see here, object field. We are going to need our button, which I have here. Set this to be create NPC, and between that we're going to put a bunch of values in a drop down because they aren't meant to be adjusted too much. They're just going to be adjusted like as needed. So speed, angular speed, acceleration, stopping distance, and auto braking. Once again, I will screenshot that, stick it on my right monitor. Let's head back into Unity. We will need a fold out to hide this stuff while we're not using it. It's not a drop down, it's a fold out. There we go. View data key will be creation window options. NPC creation options. There we go. The view data key up here is the value that Unity uses to remember the state of this UI element. So if I click to hide or fold it out, it will remember that value under the value name of the view data key NPC creation window options. So let's go ahead and stuff some stuff into here. A lot of these are going to be float fields, so I can honestly just drag one float field under the fold out and duplicate it for, there we go. And we will need a toggle. There we go. So we're gonna go in and name a bunch of things here. So this will be agent speed. Tab does not put me to the next line. That'll default to 2.5. Angular. Instead of putting agent at the front of all these, I think I'll have a label that says agent. And let's just go ahead and bold this text. There we go. This will be speed followed by angular speed, not Z speed. And angular speed, I think we set to 120, was it? Let's check. It's still 360 here. Is that what we wanted, or did I change that value? I don't actually remember. Alright, if I change that back to 120, which is by default, what's the behavior? Okay, yeah, we're going to leave that in 360. Alright. .360 for angular speed. Acceleration will be 10. It's at 10 because higher is better, and I didn't notice a difference between 10 and 100. Speed, this is stopping distance at 0.5. Toggle auto braking. By default, this is true. Now, if we want to actually use any of these things, we're going to have to declare a name to them. So this will be not a view data key, but it will be a agent speed field. We're going to have agent blank and field for basically the full naming convention. Agent angular speed field. Agent acceleration field. Agent stopping distance field. And agent auto braking field. And our object field up here needs to know it's a type of game object. And Unity editor there. We'll call this our NPC target. And this will be named NPC target field. And our button will be create NPC button. So now that we have all these declared names for all this stuff, let's go get a reference to them in our editor, well, in our script. So let's build this out up here. So this will be, change this to be NPC ref, C reference field. Oh wait, no, target field. Now, normally my naming convention for private variables is underscore, lowercase letter, and then go camel case from there. But I'm actually going to name these like they're public variables because that's the naming convention used in the UI builder. And if I do this, I can just do name of instead of having to type the name separately. So that one, private float field, agent speed field, and just duplicate that a bunch. I can get rid of speed on that. So this one will be angular speed. This one acceleration. This one stopping distance. This won't be a float field. This will be a toggle. Agent auto braking field. Actually, at no point do we ever want auto braking to be off. So I won't even have that be an option. It'll just be forcibly declared here. Let's head back into our editor just to remove that field. Because if auto braking isn't on, they'll just fly past the target. All right. And in create GUI, we're going to grab this UXML file, which is a visual tree asset. UXML equals resources. Nope. Resources. There we go. Load. This will be a visual tree asset by the name of creation window, which I think I should rename to NPC creation window. Just so it's a bit more explicit. And actually follows the same name as the window that we're making. Move this over past the hierarchy. I'll move it over here. Resources, creation window, paste new name. All right, so we are going to do uxml.cloneTree and pass in root visual element. Now, instead of doing all this, we're going to just go up here and do we'll do npc target field equals root visual element dot view query. This will be object field name of npc target field. And again, the reason that I named it this way was specifically so I can put in this field one here for a float field, duplicate this line a bunch, and just replace a bunch of words this way in a nice, quick fashion. Now, we don't need to declare anything for this here, because we already have that. Now, we still want to write into our button, so we're going to get our reference here for the button, which I haven't renamed yet. We'll do create NPC button. Find that as type of button. And we don't want to set the name, we don't want to set the reference, but we do want to keep the dot clicked. This is one of the reasons why I still like subscribing into the clicked instead of putting it in the creation wrapper, because we don't have the creation like function here. Don't need to add anything because it's already there. But we do need to make these values actually go and do things. So let's take the target field, and we already have that here. But we'll do angular speed field equals agent speed field equals that dot value. Angular speed field is that dot value. Acceleration that dot value. Stopping distance is that dot value. And from there should be all the settings we need to do for that. So let's head back into Unity. Alright, so if we click back on our character here, there we go. We've got nothing here, so we're going to drag it in. We see we have all these fields here now. Now, these values are just part of the inspector. They aren't backed by any kind of data or values or anything. So adjusting these right now doesn't write into the undo buffer or store them in any sense. But I can put this in, I can hit create NPC, and if we scroll back to the inspector, see it has all these values, has all of them correct, stopping distance 0.5, acceleration 10, and all this stuff is right. Now, let's go ahead and actually make these values have some kind of backing in reality. Actually, first I'm going to rename this from foldouts to options. There we go. All right, so custom inspectors can do a serialized object for the actual script that is storing its data on. Editor windows are just an editor. They don't have any backing object that they can make a serialized object for. So we have to create our own. So we'll just have a public class in here, NPC creation window data, and inherit from scriptable object. And this is going to store basically, well, all of these values down here. So this will be public float, blah, 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 blah. Acceleration, there we go. Bonk, bonk, bonk. I'll mass rename these, so we want to get a serialized object for these values. And we're going to do public void. Nope, we'll do public serialized object. New SO. Return new serialized object this. Actually do get serialized object. There we go. So next up I think we can have some property fields. So we'll do public serialized property. Prop speed. We'll just do that for each one of these. And changes from get serialized object to create serialized object. So serialized object SO equals new serialized object of this. We will return the new down here, and right here we'll do prop speed equals SO dot find property name of NPC creation window data dot speed. Speed. Guess it doesn't need the declarative thing there. We can rename that there, name this, and rename that. So that'll give us the serialized object for storing the data that we need. I think we need to give this the serializable attribute, and we'll just do a private serialized object serialized object. Yeah, we'll just call it that. And on GUI, on create GUI, we'll actually do this in on enable. So serialized object equals okay, we have to store this as well. So private NPC creation window data equals data. Yeah. So we'll have data equals create instance, because it's a scriptable object. We aren't going to be creating an asset for this. This is just going to be an instance of this data. This will be NPC creation window data. Serialized object equals underscore data dot create serialized object. So now that we've done this and we've stored these serialized properties up here, we can go ahead and bind it. So oh, I should also have the object field. So public game object target, is that what we call it? NPC target, there we go. And similarly, I'll have a serialized property for that and just call that prop NPC target. Make sure to populate that in the, essentially my constructor here. And now we have that stuff. Let's go ahead and NPC target field dot find property data dot prop NPC target. Happy bride, true. How's it going, Breaker? Agent speed field dot bind property. Ooh. Data dot agent speed yeah, okay. Donk donk donk. All right. Angular speed. Yeah. Hope everyone's doing good today. I know this is a lot of copy-paste code. It is unfortunately a side effect of doing fancy editor scripts. It ends up being a lot of, you do one thing and you do it like 20 times. Alright, so this should bind all of that data into a scriptable object up here. We don't really need to store the serialized object in the script. In fact, I think we can just... yeah, we'll do data.create serialized object there, and we'll store it in here. Public serialized object. It doesn't need to be public. And we won't need to return it, so we can just do void. You should make your code rainbow for pride. Oh god. I have a lot of colors here. I have white, blue, purple, green, other more different green. Looking up really. Oh god, yeah. Man, looking at the rain right now, I almost feel like it would have been a good day to sleep in, but yeah, I needed to get up when I needed to. Yeah. All right. Now, I just wrote a lot of code. Let's go figure out if any of it works. All right. That is all working. That does mean that it's wiping our current values here, so I'm going to have to grab these again. 2.5, 360, 10.5. 2.5. 360. 10. 0.5. Oops. Equals. There we go. That should get us the proper thing. All right, so we have our values there. Let's go ahead, drag box on in. We'll just go ahead and revert this whole thing. So, drag the inspector there. No, I think maybe dragging this here would be smarter. Create. All right, generates all the stuff, gives us the values. And I think that is all that our generator needs to do right now. I'm gonna get some water. Honestly, I'm feeling pretty good. We got 30 minutes left. I'm gonna go back into standing mode. Oh god. If anyone needs it, get in a stretch. Actually, you all probably need it. I declare everyone get a stretch. Oh. Oh yeah, it wasn't bad actually. Excuse me. Big stretch, yes, very much. I am very much a supporter of big stretch. Okay, so I think that'll be kind of a good point for the automation tool. Let's go ahead and set up all of the others as well. Fika-chan, dong. Unity-chan, dong. And game Vika-chan. Boom. Alright. Let's go ahead and select all of them. Give them the agent's target for their target position there. And they should all be hoarding around this this ball. Yeah. So I'm actually making some NPCs. It'll be a bit of a project here, and that's why today's is part 2. This will probably go over for quite a few streams because I kind of want this to be a very verbose system that I can get out on my Patreon. But I think it's going to be pretty nice once it's done, especially since it's going to have a lot of automation in it. Now you may see that all of our NPCs aren't moving. That is because we did not give them an animator. They have an animator component, but they do not have a animator controller, which I think is going to be actually that shouldn't have stopped them from moving. Oh, I see why. So they needed to have their state set to tracking, so they actually follow the tracker that I got. I don't know how I feel about AI making AI. When you take over the world, it's true. Yeah, fortunately, not a whole lot of intelligence in this artificial intelligence. It is largely just a very finite state machine. In fact, I think the most AI part of any of this is just the nav mesh pathing that Unity has set up, and I don't. It's certainly not AI, but it's at least asynchronous. So you have at least an A. All right. So if I hit play, they'll all swarm over there, and most of them will be T-posing, except for the Xbot. Yep. So all of them came over here. Oops. There we go. And they're all struggling to get as close as they can. Now, we need to actually give them an animator. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to have to go into our field here. We'll do UI builder. There we go. They love each other. Yes, that is the hope. The hope is that they do not hate each other and kill each other and cause havoc. So we're going to need another object field up here. This will have a label above it for animator. Puddle, true. Animation animator control. Oh god, is it? I think it's the runtime animator controller. Is the specific field name. Yep, runtime animator controller. So this would be animation controller. Oh my god. Well, this isn't my first time building out NPCs. Actually, this won't even be the first time that I've built out NPCs using this model. This is the Vika-chan 2 character. And when I was working at VCAT, I made a quite verbose system using this character. The reason that it's in this lineup right now is that, well, these 4 on the left I found to be completely redistributable and free, and I could just include them as long as I have like their appropriate licensing in the project as well. And that is basically the minimum requirement for something actually getting into this project. Weirdly enough, this is what they call block Unity-chan. I guess this, but made out of blocks. It's just in the files for it, so it's here as well. Not entirely sure on that one. But let's get this set up. We have our NPC target, we have our animation controller. We'll have this be called animation controller field. Oh, it's animator controller. Animator. Licensing. Yeah, so a lot of 3D models, even if they're free, have very specifically no redistribution in the licensing for the models, and the VCAT chons and the various Unity chons both have free redistribution in their licensing. I looked through a few VRChat models to see if we had like something similar in a lot of like the kind of public ones, and the only model that I found that had the same free redistribution was the Quest version of the Runa model, and wasn't quite sure that was the vibe I was after, so I just went with these instead. Put a little gap on these labels here. Top margin of 6. Alright, so let's store this value as well. I'm gonna need... where did I stick that? I stuck that right at the top. Good. I'm gonna have to append agent onto these. There. The reason I'm tossing agent onto the front of these is because we're going to have a bunch of settings that aren't just for the nav mesh agent, and it just keeps things split off a bit. So we'll have a public animator controller, the runtime animator controller, anim controller, prop NP, serialized property, prop anim. Put that up here. There we go. We will get an object field for our... what did we call this in here? We called this the animator controller field. So let's go down here. Oh. Okay, so that should bind to that perfectly well. Now we need to actually append one if we find an animator. Again, we don't want to require an animator, but if one's there, we'll stick it in. So we'll do animator anim equals agent object dot get component animator if anim, wrap that up in here, anim dot runtime animation controller equals oh, I didn't update these down here. Okay, so I'm gonna have to fix that. I'm gonna have to do this. And we can just get rid of field.value. My group poster got picked for the VRC Prime book. Yo, nice, nice. What'd you end up going with? Like just aesthetically and stuff. Let's see. data. Back to Unity. Bonk, bonk. Glitch up. Cyber Goth. Oh, okay, okay. Nice, nice. I am a little bit out of the loop on a lot of VR chat group things these days. NPC demo, put that in there. Apply that to everyone. That seems to do nothing. Why did that do nothing? I'm really shocked you did not work for VRC. You seem really good at what you do. Oh, I appreciate it. I actually used to work for them about a year ago. What I had done at the time was I was the community manager for the creator economy, and also ended up doing a few different things with the editor, just for like little improvements here and there. We'll see if opportunities such as that come across, come upon us in the future again. I did quite enjoy it, and it would be nice to jump back into that. Right now, I need to figure out why this isn't working. If I go into debug mode, what is this value stored as? This is just animator.controller. Let's just debug log this value. What was your favorite thing about working for VRC? Oh, absolutely. The fact that, like, it was also a bit scary about this fact too, was that you would do something, and since, like, things that I was doing especially was either directly interacting with the creator economy stuff or with the SDK, what you did was immediately felt by everyone else that, like, in the community and stuff. So I needed to be like, it was really nice to have like that kind of control and be like, oh yeah, I'm fixing this thing that's bothered me forever, and it's solving this problem for so many people. But also, like, what if I cause a bug? For example, one of the things that I worked on there was actually the example central window, which is, just dock stuff over here. This thing. So we have all these different packages here on the left that you can search from. You can go to the docs by hitting that button, and there's just a lot of different, like, little tooling in it for checking out different examples for stuff. A lot of it is either like persistence or creator economy based. I guess creator economy isn't enabled by default. You can go into your project settings, and then, well, there's one value of show creator economy examples. But we don't need to worry about that right now. Close back out of that. And let's figure this out. vkitchon 2 will revert your value there. Stick it in there. Put the NPC demo in there. Generate. It's supposed to be logging. Is it not finding an animator? This is running, right? Create NPC button. That's what it's called, right? Create NPC button. Yep. That's all right. Personal prompt. Here's an impression, were you paid by the project? Or you just yeah, I was full time. So I had salary and stuff. Yeah. It was quite nice. Where is this tripping up? Debug.log. Guess I can move away from using that field there. Data.target. That's probably it, but it doesn't feel like what should break. Alright, Figatron there. NPC demo there. We have no controller there. What is happening? This button just isn't doing anything. Close tab, open it. Pop, 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 pop. Whoops. Object reference instance of object. Alright, what happened here? Is Runtime Animator Controller like weird? A normal animator controller is part of the Unity editor field. Prop anim controller. Anim controllers, runtime. How could that have possibly broken? Is the runtime animator controller just not a serializable field? The runtime representation of the animator controller. Use this representation to change the animator controller during runtime. We're just supposed to use a animator controller, not the runtime one. Doesn't feel right. I did not work for them back in 2017. In fact, I only started VR chat in January of 2018. But yeah, I've run into Bill a bunch. He was great. Weird shenanigans in the back end. I would believe that. Well, let's close this field, this window, reopen it. Still getting that error. What is this? Bindings default, NPC creation window. Free throw target location exception has been thrown. Is this it? Is animator control? Oh. Alright. I was looking in the wrong spot. Alright. Anim controller, perfectly fine. Animator controller field to field. Probably not what I'm after. There we go. Nice, nice. You have a serialized field attribute on NPC creation. No, this is actually the serializable attribute. This allows it to be like stored in a way that Unity like can serialize the data. This probably isn't technically needed since I think scriptable object just comes with this attribute. Probably just built into object. Yeah, something like that. It's not really necessary. But if you make like a class that's like public class my thing and don't inherit from anything, let's just give it like a float bool equals true thing. There we go. If you wanted this to show up in the inspector, you could have like a list or like a field of your class type, but it would not show up in the inspector if you didn't have a serializable attributes on it. Again, probably redundant for the NPC creation window data here, since scriptable objects are serializable by default, but you define object field, float field, etc., but they are not used in your script. If you're using UI Toolkit, you may properly instantiate them and add them to the UI. They are actually from the UI builder here. So all of these objects here are queried in here, and they are used exclusively for calling bind property. And I bind in a serialized property that I've built out in the data right here. The underline isn't that they aren't used. It is that my naming convention for them isn't correct. I'm using capital letters here, like capital camel case, because that's the naming convention that I use in the UI builder. And I just use name of to snag the fields, and that makes copy paste way easier. All right. No errors. Stick our stuff in. Vigachan. NPC demo. Bang! It worked. It did the thing. Undo. It didn't do the thing. Okay. So how much do we need to how much of these things do we need to append into the undo stack? Register complete object undo, I think, is going to be what we're actually looking for here. So if I go ahead, revert that, say, actually we'll do game vcat because it's completely, so revert that, Control S, game vcat, drag it in, drag in NPC demo, create, undo, perfect. All right. That's exactly what we needed. Just, we needed a very slight adjustment. Bonk, bonk, bonk. All right, let's get rid of these debug logs. There we go. Yep, everything's working now. Yay. All right. Control S, we'll grab our target here. Let's actually go ahead and make their stopping distance like 1 meter. That way, there we go. That way they won't all be smacking into each other really aggressively. And game vcat. There we go. Play. Water. Game vcat. Okay. Oh, they're just set to idle. Let's go to tracking. Oop, that broke. All right, there's a few things that I didn't set on them specifically. Game vcat. You have target. tracking. Play. Make it so when you give them... What? Make it so when you give them hay, they make a babe. I don't get it. I'll be honest. Oh, my... Okay. Yeah, now they're moving as a group. Now they're sliding weirdly. Maybe I should just make it so the NPCs don't collide with each other. Or they just like phase through each other. That might be the solution. Or it might be a bit weird. Don't know. Alright. I'll just copy this path and put it on all the others. Oop, I cannot mass paste that. Yeah, what I'm doing here is just setting a random assortment, an assortment of 4 different positions they will randomly walk between. If I can press this button. Okay. There we go. Yeah, still having weird issues with clicking buttons right now. Oh well. E5. You are now having. Alright, so now they're just all going through the different positions and stuff. And whacking into each other. Because they're idiots. Brilliant. Alright. They are also particularly large and wide. Not to insult them, but I think we're going to have to adjust some of that. Yeah, we'll probably just declare a universal height of 1.9 and 0.25. So let's go up and declare some of that up here. Agent radius and agent height. .9 radius of 0.25. Oh. I need that. Agent height. Dunk. Agent dot radius equals data dot agent radius. Agent dot height equals data dot height. It gives me an idea of making a format when you the monster will chase you. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that you can do with NPCs. Also, dear God, I'm just realizing now there's like 2 minutes left. The past 2 streams have gone a little bit under, so I actually kind of ended early. But I guess this has been a lot of little thing here, little thing there. There's no like, oh, we have completed the thing. We're basically just building out another section of our tool that will do everything. So let's just do 2 more here of radius 0.5, 0.25, agent radius field, and agent height view. Do 1.9 there. And bonk, bonk. Radius, height. Oops, capital H there. And last but not least, we'll swap radius for height. Yeah, capital H. There we go. Alright, so this should properly apply in the radius and height of these creatures. Let's go ahead and just do that as the last thing we do today before... Pikachu, you're getting shrunk. Dunk. There we go. It's actually kind of funny watching the little gizmo get smaller. Yeah, I'm actually haven't been in VR chat a whole lot as of late. Gonna be honest, I ran out of Triscuits, and salted crackers are kind of what keep my motion sickness down. I just need to do a bit of a grocery run. But last thing, I guess we'll select everyone, put them on tracking. Yep, that all works. Agent target, play. Have you tried the wrist straps? I'm gonna say no because I don't know what that means, but I'm guessing there's some kind of anti-motion sickness wrist straps. Are those like the patches you get for boats? Right, now they're really moving as a crew. Yeah, I think technically you can only get those by prescription, but I mean, I'm pretty motion sensitive, so it wouldn't be hard for me to get a prescription for that. Stopping distance, so let's do 1. There we go. Yeah. Alright, these characters are actually moving around and doing stuff. I like it. It works. Nice. Alright. I think with this, I can do a little bit of wrap up and some cleanup of data, and I have a good amount of stuff to go ahead and toss onto the Patreon for people to start using these before I inevitably change everything and expand it out. But yeah, it's good having everyone today. Yeah, it was a lot of just kind of fiddling back and forth with some automation tooling, but it definitely has sped up things that will be in the future. Sorry, I didn't. No worries. There will definitely be more streams. Right now it's every Tuesday and Thursday at this time. And I look forward to seeing everyone again. Until next time, see you around.